Hey guys, welcome to Parkitect. Or welcome back, if you will. I'm pretty sure that most of you are already familiar with this game if you're watching this video, but just as a very small introduction, Parkitect is a theme park simulator developed by Texel Raptor, and I think a good way to describe it is basically how Destructoid did, which is, it really has that classic theme park vibe, and I think it's almost safe to say that it's Roller Coaster Tycoon, but a modern take on it, really. And it's actually funny because it's also made by 3 people, and there's one designer guy and one programmer guy and one music guy basically, so it's actually very similar to Roller Coaster Tycoon in that respect. But it also brings some new things to the table. Obviously it has a completely different art style, it's way too cute, and it has different things like a more flexible coaster builder and mod support, but I'm advertising the game at this point, and that was not my point of this whole talk about it. Basically the game is going to be released on Steam pretty soon, and I actually got asked by the developer or developers, or one of the developers, if I could make a park to help showcase the game in the trailer and for screenshots for on the Steam page, which was a really awesome question to get, so I was like, well, hell yeah, I'm gonna get started on that right away. And that's basically how things went, but that's quite a while ago right now, a couple of weeks ago, and the trailer got released 1 week ago, so I think at this point I sort of just saved these videos up until the trailer was all up and viewed, and now to get this series going as a sort of more backstage video of how the park that you can see in the trailer of Parkitect was actually built. So yeah, that's the entire idea behind this. When it comes to the park itself, it's very similar. It's very simple though, I have to say. I also couldn't use any mods. There are actually tremendous amounts of mods for this game at this point in time, and many different themes and also visual or gameplay mods that you can mess around with, which are really good and easy to use as well. But the developers really wanted to keep it vanilla for this video, just to be able to show off what the actual the game itself is like, without having, well, all of the input from mods, which can obviously transform a game and make it look completely different than the actual package that you get. Hence why people got completely confused after seeing modded videos of Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, which is a completely different game nearly. And another thing was sort of a time constraint. This was all done over the course of a couple of days before I went into the week of my exams, so I did have a bit of fuck my exams, I'll just play Parkitect there, but still I didn't have too much time to work in this park. And it's also quite casual, it's nothing really supposed to be the biggest park ever, just sort of a park to show off what you can actually do with the game in the trailer, and perhaps also a bit in this video. And it's also going to not be a very planned park, or not at all I should probably say, except for just a bit of, you know, in mind planning sort of ideas that you get of, I'm gonna do this certain thing with an area, but aside from that it's really nothing special. It's going to be, or at least the start is going to be Alpine themed, because I figured it's quite feasible with the pieces that were in the game, the vanilla game, which I had at that point in time. An important thing to keep in mind also is that this was still a pre-alpha, and still is a pre-alpha, so it's very early in development and definitely don't have all of the pieces and availabilities of the game yet, and there's a lot more still to come, so it's very much like Planet Coaster in that regard. And yeah, I just wanted to see what you could really do with the game at this point, and just try the Alpine theme first, because it's something which I'm quite used to at this point in time. It feels really safe, but it's also something which the limited building pieces in the game so far are quite good for. And you'll notice that the building system is actually on a grid, but there's actually, I think, a really interesting way in which the grid works in this game for many pieces, which makes it much more versatile than you would probably think when it's on a grid. Though I can still definitely, or at least for me, I feel like the grid is still okay, since the game isn't so much focused on making realistic parks, but really has more of that classic theme park sim vibe. And this is also why I actually am against recording it in 3D, even though there are mods to be able to actually open this game in 3D. And I just want to keep it in the vanilla isometric mode, which does more justice, I should say, to the way that this game is really supposed to be. It's really, I feel, at least very much in looks and spirit, the older theme park games, but in a newer way. So I really wanted to keep it isometric like that. But yeah, the grid I think is really cool because there's a system with alt and numbers. Like you can change the placement of an object on the grid, like whether it's going to be on the lines or in the middle of a grid tile, and you can also make the grid tile smaller by using alt in combination with different numbers, which actually makes the grid system much more versatile than I initially expected. And you're also able to just place many different pieces for which you can change the grid completely free from the grid as well, so you can actually go quite off-grid with certain things as well. So yeah, it's really in these things that I feel it still has some of those qualities of the older Roller Coaster Tycoon games, but as much as I've always felt like, or as much as I initially felt like it was a rip-off, it definitely moves forward in many different things as well, and it's much easier to actually work with this game to make some theme parks just for aesthetic value than it probably was in Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 and 2, even though there is still, of course, quite a lack of content being so early in development at the moment, and there not being that many mods yet so far. Also, something which I should probably say is that I think the art style is definitely something that just you have to be a fan of, or you really don't, and it makes quite a big impact, I think, on how much you are going to like this game. I don't think I'll make any videos of recommending games and sort of putting them together and reviewing things. I think that's a job better left for other people, but I really feel like the overall atmosphere of this game is what really carries it, and that atmosphere goes through the visuals, the art style of the game, but also the little things like the way the trees move when you place them and where you place things around them, and generally how the game feels in general. And I definitely know also some people who aren't really a big fan of this style, but I myself just kind of like it for its cuteness. I definitely would say it's completely different from whatever would really attract you to games like Planet Coaster, which I don't really make comparisons too much, so I definitely won't talk about that any further. But I really feel like if you're more of an old school Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 person, then this probably fits you more than if you were very much into the modded community of Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 or perhaps even Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. And it really depends on whether you like the overall atmosphere and look of this game. Anyway, I just wanted to make a small main street over here with some Alpine buildings, which was also quite a nice way to also see what we can really do with the objects over here. As usual, what was actually really cool was that I could just message the developers on Discord whenever I had an issue and was lacking some stuff, and just get some new things that I was missing. So you actually see that through this series, some new objects will actually pop into the game, and some new functionalities will get in there and make me replace certain parts of these buildings at some point in the future. But aside from that, this was just a general try to make a very generic Alpine-ish main street. I'm not entirely sure how I should nail it down, and Alpine is a theme which is really hard to categorize in any case, since there are so many different ways of having the Alpine theme, like whether it's Switzerland or Austrian or Northern Italy. It actually makes a huge difference, and I feel like this might be a bit more German than anything else when it comes to the Alpine theme, but it's really what I felt was most feasible with the pieces over here at this point, and also actually the best suited theme to try different things. Like you'll see, I actually love using chimneys to make pillars, and they're actually a great way to get some extra detail, even into footers sometimes. And the same goes for different pieces, like you're able to just use doorstep pieces or those side door wall pieces to make cornerstones for buildings and things like that, which is quite interesting. Or being able to place different wall types over each other to make your own window shapes, like over here, is actually also something which is not just a lot of fun, but I think also really great in the sense that you're not so limited to what you're given, but you can really choose and combine certain pieces in this game with things being so much more off-grid than, for instance, in a game like Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. A really big advantage in that as well, of course, is the fact that you actually don't have to worry about hitboxes, and you can just place things through each other. And since the textures in this game are actually non-existent, mostly on especially the wall objects, you don't really have to worry about Z-fighting and can just get walls with the same color over each other and have them overlap, which is quite useful as well as the fact that the color picker is, well, completely versatile, of course, being a hex color picker. I think that's what they're called. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, that's pretty great as well. I should say though that I'm still, of course, very much focused on building things like usual in my videos, but the game is really also going to focus on the gameplay aspect, very much like the original Roller Coaster Tycoon, which is something that still needs to be fleshed out, and which is very work in progress at this point in the pre-alpha. So something to keep in mind is that this maybe doesn't really represent all of the angles from which you can look at the game, but this really goes for all of my videos in general. But yeah, it's mostly an exploration of what you can do with the scenery in the game, which is still quite a lot of fun though. It's really down to the way how much I like the graphics and how cute they are. So, I don't know, usually I've heard people say if you're into the older Roller Coaster Tycoons or into very cutesy games, I think this is actually a really cool game to try. But I should actually probably say that the best way to check out whether you should get this game or any other coaster game is just to check out videos. I think actually Nerdcubed has a really good video comparing Parkitect to Roller Coaster Tycoon World and Planet Coaster. That's awfully off topic though. I just feel that even though this game borrows a lot from the older Roller Coaster Tycoon games and definitely wouldn't be there if they wouldn't exist, it really has its own little style and some of the things which I love, which I can't really advertise for, but some of the more personal things are really how cute the sound design and how good the sound design in general really is. And the fact that you have different sounds for objects that you place onto the ground, and that things move a little bit when you place them, and you get this little gust of wind around the object that you place, and just the overall feeling of the game with all the effort that goes into the little details, it's what is worth it for me in the end. But that's really not what this series is focused on. Also, I should definitely say I'm not affiliated with the developers, and I didn't get any money or the games, but it's just a game which I really like playing. So there you go. That's about that. Though in between this and all the other games that I'm playing and school, I don't really have too much time for it. But yeah, that's basically the entire story around it. I should also say I am actually a really big fan of the gameplay aspect as well, so while I probably won't focus on that in any videos anytime soon, and it still needs to be fleshed out in the game, definitely it's something which I do enjoy a lot, and Roller Coaster Tycoon the original is probably my favorite game of all time, and probably also the one that I've played most of all games ever, so it's something which I am thinking about, just something which I'm not really doing at this point in time. I also may actually get into a modded series of this game if I find some time in the future and practice a little bit more with it, and by the time some more mods and updates will also come out, then definitely it's something which I'll pick up in the future. But right now the only thing to really look forward to is this game's eventual Steam release, which is going to happen pretty soon, and I'm actually going to link it in the description of this video just in case, and that is if I don't forget it, which I'll probably do, but yeah, that's something where you can check it out, at least. Now, this last building was just a bit of a thing where I actually wanted to try different colors. You don't see too many red planks on Alpine buildings. Definitely a more Japanese thing, but it's something which I just wanted to try, just to get different colors in here. One of the things which I do like is, even though the visuals are very simple, and this goes for the models and textures, by having that very versatile color picker, you can get the very minor differences in colors between buildings, which, while it doesn't seem like it would affect the overall look of Mainstreet too much, it actually makes a really big difference if you just have those very minor differences in colors between buildings to make it seem a little bit more realistic and differentiate them a little bit from each other. And this definitely goes for all of the details, but especially in the case of a Alpine Mainstreet where you have to work with a lot of wooden planks, I think it's best to just get some slightly different shades of brown or even related colors and add them to the buildings. Also, something to not be afraid of, I think, is to go with some less orthodox colors for the blanks. Like, really green doesn't even look too bad for blanks either, and red can always be a pretty good choice as well. Hell, and even an orange-ish shade would actually be pretty good in some cases. And also something to keep in mind when you're playing Parkitect is that chimneys are absolutely everything. Though mostly pillars, you can actually use them for quite a lot more than just being chimneys. And I also have to say that it was actually this game that sparked my love for chimneys as different objects, definitely. Anyway, that's a weird topic to end this video on, but this is all I have for today. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode, in which I'll finish the Mainstreet. It'll be quite a short episode, and same goes for the rest of the episodes of this series probably, but I'll just tackle parts of the park in bite-sized videos. Anyway, see you guys later.